Hey guys, this is Philip from Ambiguity, and this week we're going to be talking about how would you go about teaching your kids the gender spectrum and all things being comfortable with your gender. So all of us have had experience with this. All of us have had experience with our people who parent us and bring us up and how they influence our lives and our image of what gender is. So I think something that's really important in kids' lives is to have role models that not only influence how you see the world, but also allow you freedom and allow you the ability to be yourself. And a lot of us, especially in the trans community, have had unsupportive parents, unsupportive guardians, and people who, rather than helping you grow to flourish, actually suppress you and are a force of negative energy. So, in my life, if I were to have kids and I were to have to come to that point where I'm teaching them about gender, it wouldn't be just one teaching moment. It wouldn't just be like one, the talk kind of moment. It would just be slowly introducing these new ideas and these positive ideas into their lives. For example, the tendency to not gender strangers just at looking at them, to not assume someone's gender based on their expression and their the way they're dressing, because people can dress one way and completely identify another way. So that would be a big idea. And also using gender neutral pronouns. You'll see that I use that more often nowadays. I'll use they and them rather than he or she, because I think that it's important to introduce that into people's lives right now, because there are a lot of people who don't even identify as one or the other. They'll just identify as like a neutral kind of fluid identity. So as a kid, I think it's important to stay in that kind of neutral zone, because most kids are actually, like, they don't really have a sense of gender yet. They still they're more interested in playing with rocks and dirt rather than identity. So that would be really important to me, to allow them to have that room and to stay in that neutral zone as long as they possibly can, because gender is super duper confusing and irritating if you're just focused on it too long, and I think kids should really focus on being a kid rather than having to fit into a binary. Another thing that I would like to teach kids throughout their lives, like I said, it's not just going to be one teaching moment, would be that genitals don't equal gender. That there are people who exist who don't have one or the other. For example, intersex people. I think it would be really important to teach them about the existence of intersex people, because they're more common than usual than people think, and I think the idea about them is really skewed in our society. They're called what is it called? Hermaphrodites. Bullshit like that, and I think it's very wrong the way that they're seen in our society right now. Also, like I said, the idea that genitals don't equal gender. If someone has, I apologize for the triggering language, if someone has a penis, that doesn't mean that they're a male. If someone has a vagina, that doesn't mean that they're female. If someone's in between, that doesn't mean that they're in between. They could still identify one way or the other, or neither way at all. So I think that idea is a super important concept to grasp, especially at a young age, because it influences a big part of our ideas about gender. So to wrap it all up, this concept is very complicated, and it isn't something that you can grasp in one talk. And if I were to have kids, I would want them to see me as an influence and as an open source of information, rather than just one fast talk about, like, hey, gender doesn't mean this or that, and then be done with it. I want them to be able to come back to me with questions, and I want to be able to be informed about their questions. Because as someone who knows what it's like to have parents who are completely clueless, I know that how important that would be for me to actually be knowledgeable about what's going on in that process. And I apologize for my voice being raspy. I'm so sick. So thank you guys very much. I hope you have a wonderful week. If you have any questions or comments, comment section below. I'd like to hear your opinions on this matter. So thank you. Have a good night.